Detectives Miller and Hayes had been following a lead on a local disturbance when they spotted a woman walking briskly near the courthouse. Without asking for details, they approached her with an accusatory tone, assuming she was involved in the incident. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us for questioning," said Detective Miller, his voice firm. The woman, calm but clearly unimpressed, raised an eyebrow. "On what grounds?" she asked evenly. Detective Hayes glanced at his partner, uneasy for the first time. "There's been some trouble in the area, and we need to verify your involvement." Without waiting for a proper explanation or proof, they escorted her toward the courthouse. As they entered the courthouse, the woman maintained her composure, her eyes steady and confident despite the situation. The detectives exchanged uneasy glances, sensing that things might not be as straightforward as they initially thought. In the interrogation room, Detective Miller began, "We received reports about suspicious behavior around the neighborhood. You matched the description we were given." The woman leaned forward slightly, her voice calm but firm. "I'd like to know the details of these reports, and why you assumed I was involved without any evidence." Detective Hayes shuffled some papers but avoided meeting her gaze. "We're just doing our job, ma'am. It's routine to question anyone who might be connected." She smiled faintly. "Routine should still respect the rights of individuals. Have you considered that your assumptions might be misplaced?" Just then, the door opened, and a court officer appeared, signaling that the woman was to be formally charged and brought before a judge. As the detectives escorted her down the hall, the woman's mind raced, preparing to reveal a truth that would change the entire situation. The courtroom buzzed with quiet murmurs as the woman was led in, handcuffed despite her calm demeanor. The judge, an older man with a stern expression, glanced over the files in front of him, clearly expecting a routine hearing. Detective Miller presented the case, speaking confidently, "Your Honor, the defendant was found near the scene of a disturbance and refused to cooperate with officers when approached. We believe she has information relevant to the investigation." The woman stood, her posture poised and unshaken. "Your Honor, I am here willingly to clear up any misunderstanding. However, I believe it's important to clarify who I am before proceeding." The room fell silent. Whispers spread among the spectators and officers alike. The judge raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Without hesitation, the woman reached into her jacket and pulled out a gleaming FBI badge, holding it up for all to see. "This is Special Agent Rebecca Lawson," she announced. "I'm currently working undercover on an important federal case connected to this very neighborhood." Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Detective Miller's confident expression faltered, and Detective Hayes shifted uncomfortably. The judge adjusted his glasses, looking directly at Agent Lawson. "Is this true?" She nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. The officers who detained me did so without verifying my identity or the nature of my work. I was conducting surveillance related to a federal investigation, and their actions have compromised that operation." The judge leaned back, considering the situation carefully. "This changes the circumstances significantly." Agent Lawson then addressed the courtroom. "I ask that all charges be dropped immediately, and that the officers involved receive appropriate guidance on protocol to prevent such misunderstandings in the future." The lead detective, now humbled, stammered, "Your Honor, I apologize for the confusion. It won't happen again." The judge nodded firmly. "Very well. This court recognizes the seriousness of this error. Case dismissed." Agent Lawson smiled softly but with authority. "Thank you, Your Honor." As she left the courtroom, the room remained quiet, a powerful reminder that assumptions can lead to mistakes, and respect for protocol and individuals is paramount. Outside the courthouse, the afternoon sun cast long shadows as Agent Rebecca Lawson took a deep breath, the tension slowly melting away. Reporters had gathered, sensing something significant had just transpired inside, but she remained focused on the bigger picture. Detective Miller approached cautiously, his demeanor changed from earlier. "Agent Lawson, I want to personally apologize for the way this was handled. We didn't realize who you were, and our actions were out of line. Rebecca nodded, accepting the apology but keeping her tone professional. Thank you, Detective. It's critical that law enforcement agencies communicate better in situations like this. Assumptions only create obstacles. Detective Hayes chimed in, we've already begun reviewing our protocols to ensure this doesn't happen again. Your work is important, and we want to support it, not hinder it. Rebecca smiled faintly. I appreciate that. Cooperation between federal and local authorities is essential, especially in complex investigations. As they spoke, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and quickly excused herself. The message was urgent, a new lead had come in on the case she was working. With a nod to the detectives, she said, duty calls. I hope we can build a stronger partnership moving forward. Detective Miller nodded, a new respect in his eyes. We look forward to it, Agent Lawson. Rebecca walked away, her mind already shifting gears. Today's ordeal was a reminder of how easily misunderstandings could arise, but also of the power of professionalism and truth to set things right. Behind her, the courthouse doors closed, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of another, one where respect and cooperation would pave the way for justice. In the days that followed, Agent Rebecca Lawson's encounter with the local detectives became a catalyst for change within the precinct. The police department's leadership convened a series of meetings to discuss how to improve communication and collaboration between local law enforcement and federal agencies. Detective Miller, now an advocate for reform, spearheaded training sessions focused on recognizing federal agents in the field and emphasizing the importance of verifying identities before taking action. Detective Hayes joined him, eager to ensure that no one else would face the kind of misunderstanding Rebecca had endured. Meanwhile, Agent Lawson continued her undercover work with renewed determination. The experience had reminded her how critical it was to foster trust and mutual respect among all branches of law enforcement. She arranged for joint briefings where agents and officers shared information and strategies, breaking down barriers that had long hindered their effectiveness. One afternoon, during a coordinated operation targeting a major criminal network, Rebecca worked side by side with Miller and Hayes. Their partnership, forged through trial and understanding, was seamless and effective. The operation resulted in several arrests and the dismantling of a key part of the network, a victory celebrated by all. Reflecting on the journey, Rebecca realized that beyond the badges and investigations, it was human connection and respect that ultimately made the difference. Her encounter in the courtroom had been challenging, but it sparked growth and unity where it was most needed. As she prepared for her next assignment, Rebecca received a message from Detective Miller, "Thank you for showing us the way. Here's to many more successful partnerships." She smiled, knowing that justice was not just about enforcing the law, it was about understanding, cooperation, and standing together. Weeks after the successful operation, Agent Rebecca Lawson found herself invited to speak at a community outreach event organized by the local police department. The event aimed to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the residents they served, fostering trust and transparency. Standing before a diverse crowd, Rebecca shared her experiences, not only from the field but also the moments that tested her resolve and commitment to justice. She spoke candidly about the misunderstandings that can happen, especially when communication breaks down between agencies. Every badge represents a commitment, she said, but it's the respect behind that badge that truly matters. We must remember that before jumping to conclusions, especially when lives and reputations are at stake. The audience listened intently as she emphasized the importance of collaboration and empathy. Among the attendees were local officers, community leaders, and young people aspiring to careers in law enforcement. After her speech, several officers approached Rebecca. Detective Miller was among them, his expression sincere. "Your story inspired a lot of us. We're making real progress in our department." Rebecca nodded. "That's encouraging. Change isn't easy, but it's necessary." Later that evening, as she prepared her report for the FBI, Rebecca reflected on how far the journey had taken her, from being forcibly brought to court to becoming a symbol of cooperation and change. The experience had transformed not only her professional path but also her personal perspective on justice and service. Her phone buzzed again, a message from a community youth program thanking her for her words and leadership. Rebecca smiled, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. She understood now more than ever that justice was a collective effort, built on patience, understanding, and the courage to challenge assumptions. Looking out the window at the city skyline, she whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning." The momentum of change sparked by Agent Rebecca Lawson's experience rippled through the law enforcement community far beyond the walls of that courthouse. In the weeks that followed, multiple precincts within the county began adopting new policies aimed at fostering stronger interagency collaboration. Rebecca was invited to participate in a high-level task force focused on improving protocols for joint operations between federal agents and local police. The task force meetings were intense but productive, filled with candid discussions about past challenges and the shared goal of preventing similar incidents in the future. One afternoon, as the task force deliberated over communication guidelines, Rebecca recalled the tension in the courtroom, the assumptions, the hesitation, the missed opportunities for clarity. She spoke up, her voice steady but passionate. "We need to build trust before the crisis occurs. Training should include cultural awareness, but more importantly, it must emphasize listening and verifying facts without bias." Her words resonated deeply with the group. Detective Miller, now a key advocate within the local force, added, "It's about humility too, recognizing that none of us have all the answers, and we must rely on each other's expertise." Outside the formal meetings, Rebecca and the detectives forged genuine friendships. They spent time discussing not only their work but their lives, breaking down barriers that once seemed insurmountable. Their camaraderie became a testament to the power of respect and understanding. Meanwhile, the community noticed the shift. Crime rates began to decline as joint operations became more coordinated and effective. Neighborhoods that had long felt overlooked started to see law enforcement as partners rather than adversaries. At a community dinner honoring these improvements, Rebecca was invited to speak once again. This time, her message was one of hope and unity. "Justice isn't the work of one person or one agency," she said. "It's a shared mission that requires trust, communication, and an unwavering commitment to fairness." As applause filled the room, Rebecca felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The ordeal that had once threatened her mission had become a catalyst for progress, proving that even in the most difficult moments, change was possible. Her journey was far from over, but with allies by her side and a community willing to listen, she knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead together. Months had passed since the courthouse incident, and the partnership between federal agents and local law enforcement had grown stronger and more seamless. Agent Rebecca Lawson's leadership and perseverance had set a new standard, inspiring others to follow suit. One crisp morning, Rebecca found herself back in the neighborhood where the original disturbance had taken place. This time, she walked freely among residents who greeted her with nods and smiles rather than suspicion. A community meeting was underway at the local recreation center, where Rebecca, Detective Miller, and Detective Hayes were invited to discuss ongoing safety initiatives. The room was filled with a diverse group of residents eager to share their concerns and ideas. Rebecca addressed the crowd, "Our goal is to create a safe environment where everyone feels heard and protected. That means not only enforcing the law but also building relationships." During the meeting, a young man stood up, his voice steady but hopeful. "We've seen a lot of changes lately. It feels like the police and the community are finally working together. But what can we do to keep this going?" Detective Miller responded, "It starts with communication. Keep talking to your local officers. Let them know what you need. And remember, trust is built one conversation at a time." Rebecca added, "And if anyone here is interested in a career in law enforcement or public service, we're here to support you. The future depends on fresh voices and new perspectives." After the meeting, Rebecca stayed behind to speak with a group of young people interested in the FBI's youth outreach programs. She shared stories about her journey, including the challenges she faced and the importance of resilience. As she spoke, a local journalist approached, asking about the impact of the cooperation between agencies. Rebecca replied thoughtfully, "When agencies work together with respect and transparency, we create a foundation for real justice. It's not about authority, it's about service. And that service must be earned every day." Later that afternoon, as she walked back to her car, Rebecca reflected on the path she had traveled, from being misunderstood and detained to becoming a beacon of unity and change. Her phone buzzed with a new message, a tip related to her ongoing case. With a determined smile, she pocketed the phone. "Time to get back to work," she whispered. The journey continued, but now, it was one she walked with allies, community support, and a shared commitment to justice that transcended titles and badges. The days grew busier as Agent Rebecca Lawson dove deeper into the federal case that had initially brought her to the courthouse. With the strengthened partnership between agencies, she now had access to resources and support that were previously unavailable. One morning, she convened a joint task force meeting with local detectives, FBI agents, and community leaders. The room was alive with focused energy, the earlier tension replaced by a shared sense of purpose. Rebecca opened the meeting. "Our progress is encouraging, but the case is far from over. We've uncovered new evidence that points to a larger network operating within the city. Coordination and trust will be key to dismantling it." Detective Hayes nodded in agreement. "We've also received tips from community members who feel safer reaching out. That's a testament to the work we've all done together." As they reviewed intelligence reports and planned their next moves, Rebecca couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. The relationships built through patience and understanding had transformed the way law enforcement operated in the city. Later that week, the task force executed a carefully planned raid on one of the network's suspected locations. The operation was swift and successful, with arrests made and key evidence secured. Back at headquarters, the team gathered to debrief. Detective Miller turned to Rebecca, "We couldn't have done this without your leadership. Your approach to collaboration changed everything." Rebecca smiled, humbled. "It's been a team effort. And it's proof that when we work together, we're stronger." Outside, community members gathered, hearing of the success through local news. Many expressed renewed confidence in law enforcement, hopeful that justice was being served fairly and effectively. In a quiet moment, Rebecca called her family to share the news. Their pride and support reminded her why the work mattered so deeply. As night fell over the city, Rebecca sat at her desk reviewing case files. The road ahead remained challenging, but the journey from that courtroom incident to this moment had strengthened her resolve. She knew that true justice was not only about catching criminals but also about building bridges, between people, agencies, and communities. And with every step forward, that bridge grew stronger. The success of the raid marked a turning point not only in the investigation but in the relationship between the FBI and the local police department. Media coverage highlighted the collaborative effort, praising the newfound unity that had begun with a difficult encounter but blossomed into a powerful alliance. Agent Rebecca Lawson found herself at the center of this positive attention, but she remained focused on the work ahead. The criminal network was only partially dismantled, and intelligence suggested there were still key players operating in the shadows. One afternoon, during a strategic briefing, Rebecca reviewed the latest intelligence with Detective Miller and other members of the task force. "There's a high-value target connected to the network," she explained. "Capturing them could unravel the entire operation." Detective Miller nodded. "We've been tracking that person for weeks. It's time to bring them in." The task force meticulously planned the operation, coordinating with various agencies to ensure precision and safety. Rebecca's experience and calm under pressure were critical as they prepared to execute what could be the most significant arrest of the case. On the day of the operation, tensions were high. Teams positioned themselves strategically, ready to move at a moment's notice. Rebecca led the FBI agents, while Miller and Hayes coordinated the local officers. The target's location was a rundown warehouse on the edge of the city. As the teams closed in, communication flowed smoothly, an indicator of how far their partnership had come. With a well-executed breach, the target was apprehended without incident. Inside the warehouse, authorities discovered not only incriminating evidence but also materials indicating plans for further illegal activity. Back at headquarters, the mood was one of cautious optimism. The arrest was a major breakthrough, but the team knew vigilance was necessary to prevent retaliation or attempts to fill the power vacuum. Later, in a meeting with community leaders, Rebecca emphasized the importance of continued cooperation. Justice doesn't end with an arrest, she said. It requires ongoing commitment from all of us, law enforcement, community members, and agencies alike. Detective Hayes added, "Our partnership has proven that we can overcome obstacles and make a real difference when we work together." As the meeting concluded, Rebecca took a moment to reflect on the journey, from the courtroom where she once faced misunderstanding, to this moment of shared victory. The experience had shaped her into not only a stronger agent but a bridge builder, someone committed to fostering respect, trust, and unity in the pursuit of justice. The road ahead was still long, but with allies at her side and the community behind her, Agent Lawson was ready to face whatever challenges came next. Months after the decisive arrest, the city began to heal from the shadows that once loomed over it. The collaborative efforts of federal agents, local law enforcement, and the community had transformed not only the safety of the streets but the very spirit of cooperation between those sworn to protect and the people they served. Agent Rebecca Lawson stood at the forefront of this change, her journey having come full circle. From the moment she was mistakenly detained and brought before a judge, to now being recognized as a leader and advocate for unity, her story had become an inspiration. At a formal ceremony held at City Hall, Rebecca was honored alongside Detective Miller, Detective Hayes, and several other officers for their exemplary work and dedication. Speeches highlighted the importance of respect, communication, and mutual trust, the values that had turned initial misunderstandings into a lasting partnership. Rebecca addressed the gathering, her voice steady with conviction. Justice is not a solitary pursuit. It is a collective responsibility. When we listen to each other, when we respect one another's roles and experiences, we become stronger. We create communities where everyone feels safe and valued. The crowd responded with heartfelt applause, many moved by the progress that had been achieved. Later, as the ceremony concluded, Rebecca found a quiet moment to reflect. She thought of the countless people whose lives had been affected, not just by crime, but by the barriers and biases that can so easily divide. Her phone buzzed with a message from a young community leader she had mentored. "Thank you for showing us what true leadership looks like." A smile spread across Rebecca's face. This was the real reward. As she prepared to return to the field, she knew challenges would always arise. But the foundation laid through understanding, respect, and partnership would guide her and those who followed. The badge she carried was more than a symbol of authority, it was a reminder of the trust placed in her and the promise to uphold justice fairly and with compassion. With renewed purpose, Agent Lawson stepped forward, ready to continue her mission, not just as an agent of the law, but as a catalyst for change. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had also been transformative. And it was far from over.